Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and once again I am doing another one of my top 10 cards for Commander Cube videos, even though no one asked for these, but I like doing them because I love Commander Cube. Commander Cube is rad, and these videos are easy to do. Forget that last part. I'm definitely doing this not because they're super easy to do and I'm tired. But today we're talking about Battlebond, which actually was a really cool set and actually has a lot of really neat cards for a variety of formats and like playstyles. But before we get into that, just talk about the series. I don't know, I'll eventually have like a more succinct way to say this, but essentially I'm going to be I go through all the new cards in the set. I'm not looking at reprints or anything like that, because like a large part of the set was reprints. And looking at the best cards for Commander Cube, which is, if you don't know about Commander Cube, it's like cubing, so it's like limited where you draft, except by the end you make a commander deck and then you play commander. So I'm looking for like the best cards to put into a cube, not necessarily the best power level cards, but cards that meet the most interesting games to provide like the best like interactions with other things and stuff like that. So, words that mean things. One thing I also do not include is I don't include any legendary creatures. And this set actually had a lot of legendary creatures because every Commander Cube utilizes commander like legendary creatures differently. Like some draft them, some don't. Some have like limited pools and things like that, and or have separate drafts. And it's too much variance to like accurately like rate them, as well as like a lot of the top 10 would be just dominated by legendary creatures, because turns out legendary creatures are actually quite good in Commander. So yeah, so to jump right into it, we got to start us up. I just have an honorable mentions for Out of Bounds. I mean, it's a counterspell, but it is Assist. Assist is one of the new mechanics in it, which other players can pay for the colorless mana component of an assist card. So it's a 4 mana counterspell, but it can come from other people, which is like useful. And like I said in my Battlebond set review, is that a lot of the time for these assist cards is in a multiplayer setting where you're not like on a team. Really the only ones that you are gonna get an assist for is they have to respond to a threat to the rest of the table. And this one does satisfy that, where say someone's casting some big flashy spell, like, I don't know, an Avenger of Zendikar with a bunch of enablers on board. Like, you can get people to lend you their mana, and to cast this, and this could be potentially a 1 mana counterspell for you. But at the same time, it's a lot of ifs, it's still kind of expensive, and it just doesn't do much that another counterspell wouldn't do, and I'd rather just run a normal counterspell over this in the cube. So that's why it's an honorable mention and not in the top 10. But coming in at number 10, we have Spellseeker. She is a 3-mana 1/1, but when you enter the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorceries card with converted mana cost 2 or less and put it in your hand. So tutors are a bit of a controversial subject within Commander. I don't actually. I'm personally like a fan. Like one of the. It is in my opinion that I feel tutors kind of, especially as very powerful tutors, like kind of like the one that this one be associated with like mystical tutor and things like that. It kind of defeats the purpose of like playing 100 card singleton. But at the same time, this one is like, when it's restricted and like very like focused, like this is when it gets you converted cast 2 or less. Also in Commander Cube, the whole singleton nature is more of just a product of it being a cube than part of the format itself, and usually you're only playing the decks once or twice, so the consistency there isn't as much of an issue. But this is like one of those cards where you can grab a lot of useful things. It grabs any cheap instant or sorcery. Most of the time you'll be grabbing an answer or like a piece of removal. You can grab Cyclonic Rift most notably, and other times you will just want to pick up a piece you need. But otherwise she is kind of just like a focus tutor on a body that can be blinked, that can be recurred, and allows a lot of cool things that you can do with her, but isn't quite as flashy, and she doesn't like scream like the cards I put in these top 10s are often cards you open and you're like, yes, I want to build this deck, and Spellseeker doesn't really push you in any given direction. Like, she cares about instants and sorceries, but she doesn't need to be in a Spellslinger deck. She just cares about being in a deck that has cheap instant or sorceries, which is a lot of them. But speaking of tutors, Arena Rector, who is a 4-mana 1/2 that when she dies, you may exile it. And if you do, you may search your library for a Planeswalker, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This is another tutor, and go to like everything I said. But at the same time, it puts into play, it is a little more extra work, like you need to be able to kill it, or have it die some way, and that little bit of extra work, I think, is really neat, and lets you put something on the battlefield, but all the same kind of like quirks like that I say otherwise. It's like, if you've already, this isn't one where it's like you're excited because like, oh, I want to build this deck. It's more like, oh hey, I already have 1 or 2 other good Planeswalkers I've drafted. I'll just pick up an Arena Rector and help me out that way, which is fine, but she doesn't scream build around me as much. But, I mean, she is still quite good. Wrong way. Next is another assist card, which is Play of the Game, which is 6 white for a sorcery that's exile all non-land permanents. So it's a board wipe. And specifically, it's a very broad board wipe. And granted, it is a 8-mana board wipe, but the cards like this is really who you're gonna like be able to like coordinate with other people to like take down a larger threat. If someone has like a massive swarm of like tokens or some threat that just can't be destroyed, like an indestructible creature with like lightning greaves on or something like that, where it's a threat that the rest of the team is having trouble dealing with. And Play of the Game really helps get around that while also getting us a deep discount. And also assist feels really good from like a gameplay, game design point of view, where you can like, it's a good feeling to feel like you helped stop a threat, and even if you're not the one casting it, you feel like you've helped a little bit. And from like, one of the things I think about when you're building like a cube, any sort of cube, also Commander Cube, is what is the experience like? And honestly, that's kind of true for Commander as a whole, where Commander, at least in my opinion, is a lot less about did I win or lose, like a lot of other formats, in especially limited formats. It's more about like, what was the game like? It's the journey to that destination than the actual destination itself. And I don't know, this kind of things like this where it's like feeling like, okay, yes, we all work together to stop this big threat that was being played, and being able to contribute to that is nice. All wrapped up into a nice card. That said, it is just a board wipe, but it is also a very efficient board wipe. It hits everything. So, that's cool. Next up is Arcane Artisan, who is a 3-mana 0/3. They may pay 2 in blue, tap her, and target player draws a card, then exiles a card from their hand. If a creature card is exiled this way, that player creates a token copy that's a copy of that card. When she leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with it at the beginning of the next dim step. So she's a looter, but then when you loot away, say, a big creature, you get a copy of it. Now, obviously, this is it's a very like swingy card. Like, oftentimes I feel like you'll play this and she'll get removed. Like, she is removal bait because it's very dangerous. You can tap 3, tap her, and oh look, it's an Eldrazi. Oh no, I have this token Eldrazi now. Whoops. But yeah. So but this is one of the ones where again, it doesn't really push into an archetype, but it's a little bit higher up because it's like you open this and it's like, wow, this actually is a really cool effect. And I mean, and it's also just a very unique effect where it is kind of like the whole sneak attack through the breach type of deal, but in a really neat and unique way, where you can get your token Emrakul into play and not just your other Emrakul. And it's one of the ones that also requires different pieces to work together, and otherwise it's really neat. But it's just a really unique mechanic for it. Also, it's nice that your tokens don't leave until the end of the turn, so it's not like we're just getting blown out if she gets destroyed or something. Okay, we got Archon of Valor's Reach, which is 4 green and a white for a 5/6 with Flying, Vigilance, and Trample. In Commander Cube is a lot more determined through the combat step, so having good bodies is much more important on a creature, and wow, is that a good body. That's a 6 mana 5/6 Flying, Vigilance, Trample. It's not going to end a game, but that is a solid body. It blocks well, it deals in damage, and it does another cool effect. One thing cool about Battlebond is like a lot of the cards are just really neat, unique effects, but they really went out there with the design for a lot of these things. And yeah. But this one, as Archon of Valor's Reach enters the battlefield, choose Artifact, Enchantment, Instant, Sorcery, or Planeswalker. Players cannot cast spells of the chosen type. So really it's you're kind of looking at the board and choosing what you want. And I think the most oftentimes we'll be choosing Instant or Sorcery. Sorcery, if you have a big board presence, like you are in Celestia, so you might be going white of tokens or other creatures and stuff, and you, like most board wipes or sorceries, you'll name Sorcery to prevent people from playing board wipes or something like that. Or if you're worried about something else, I know in my cube, you can run Planeswalkers as your commander. So you can name, if you want to, you can name Planeswalker if you don't want someone's Elspeth hitting the board. And do note that it is symmetrical, that you cannot cast these spells either. So it'll depend on that, but it's a really flexible card and a really unique card. While also just having really solid stats where, you know what, that second ability may not always be relevant, but I mean, a 5/6 Flying, Vigilance, Trample, it's usually fairly, at least a little bit relevant on most boards, so yeah. Next up is another assist card, which is Game Plan, which is 5 in a blue with assist, so up to 5 of it can be paid by other players. Each player shuffles their hand and in their graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. Exile Game Plan. So it's a wheel effect. But it's a little expensive. But I think the idea of playing Game Plan is you want to be using it I feel a lot of the time in the decks you're running, obviously if you're running Niv Mizzet or Locust God or Nekusar, you're not going to get the assist. That's just true. And 6 mana is a lot of mana for a wheel, but I mean, another wheel is nice for those kind of decks. But the assist comes into where the idea of, okay, everyone, let's pitch in our resources. We need to find an answer for someone else's plan, and I have a way to maybe dig us into an answer. And yeah, so it's one of those things where you can work together to find that solution, that collaborative solution to a common threat. And for all the reasons I talked about, play the game, but I feel this one has a bit more utility beyond just being a board wipe. That is really neat. Stunning Reversal. This is one of those cards which isn't that good, but can create a great experience and a great feel and kind of thing. Where it's a 4-minute instant. The next time you would lose the game this turn, instead draw 7 cards and your life total becomes 1. Exile Stunning Reversal. So it's one of those things where it's very situational. But the payoff and the whole story, it's oftentimes you're usually maybe you'll draw into an answer that'll help you stabilize, but oftentimes at 1 life you're not really going to be winning the game from there. but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's just the potential, like, where Commanders are really the format, especially Commander Cube, is kind of this format of dream big, and this is definitely a dream big card, and can lead to that, be like, you know, I would run this, and you're holding up your mana and everything, and, you know, one day it might work out, and it might not, and oftentimes it won't, and I think most of the time it's probably the safe idea is to not run this card, but you can dream, right? And that's kind of the thing that I'm like looking for when I talk about like crafting experiences rather than just pure power level. Next up is Stolen Strategy, which is a 5-mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it was mana of any color to cast those spells. So another thing that I want to look at is making white and red more powerful, and it pushes them a bit higher on this list, because those are historically the least powerful spells or colors in EDH, and one of the main reasons is card advantage. This is a solid card advantage engine in red. Granted, you're not getting your cards, but you're getting your opponent's cards, and honestly, playing with your opponent's cards is almost more fun than playing with your own cards. So, essentially you're kind of drawing 3 cards, but unfortunately you can't play lands, unfortunately, but yeah, you get to like draw extra cards, you get to get around like color restrictions and things like that. Also, it's a 5-mana enchantment that doesn't, enchantment in red that doesn't affect the board state. And honestly, that's my favorite part of red. In fact, it's my only favorite part of red. I don't like red. Red can go burn in hell, but shouldn't do that, because burning is a red thing to do, and that's bad. They can go, I don't know, freeze somewhere? I don't know. I like my big red enchantments, I like my Stolen Strategy, I like my Sunbird's Evocation, I like my Possibility Storm, and cards like that. But yeah, no. And it really just kind of helps that archetype, and it's a consistent source of that card advantage that red just doesn't get access to that much. Maybe they can draw into cards from better colors. Alright, at number 2, we have Bramble Sovereign. Bramble Sovereign is a 2 green for a creature dryad. She is a 4/4 that whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and a green. If you do, that creature's controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. So essentially it makes any creature you cast, you can pay 2 extra to get an extra 1. Which is, I mean, I don't have to tell you that's good. That is just good, and it's one of those cards which really just kind of like makes you want to like, yeah, this is really good. Also, once you get into like blinking things, or like a rune deck or things like that, granted, it is like a very generically green thing to do, where this doesn't push you into a very specific deck. Like, you can put this in almost any green deck, and it will be solid as long as you like maybe add some extra, like, obviously you want a little bit of extra ramp, but you're also playing greens, so why wouldn't you have ramp? Granted, you can create extra copies for anything, which isn't always useful. Like, usually you don't want to be giving your opponents extra cards and stuff. But that said, there will be situations where you do want to give them, like someone plays a Wreck Sage, and there's multiple enchantments and artifacts in the field that that the group needs to get rid of, and you can then pay the extra man to be like, hey, okay, you can have an extra Wreck Sage, just blow up that guy's, I don't know, Beastmaster Ascension. And yeah, and it just kind of like helps you get that out of the way. Where that flexibility is there. One thing else I haven't talked about is that, I don't know, I do it in my cube, but like, I mean, everyone's Commander Cube can be built differently, like, because it's actually a format with a wide amount of like actual flexibility. I should really do like a video on like how to go about like starting to build your commander cube, but instead I just keep doing these videos because list videos are easy. But that said, some variants in it, like in my cube, there's a card that like makes one of the people the arch enemy, and that actually makes a lot of these assistant cards that affect all players kind of a little bit more interesting when you actually are playing teams. And sometimes you'll be like, you might just want to straight up play like Commander 2-Headed Giant and things like that, where these effects that like a lot of the cards in Battlebond affect everyone, which kind of affects that. Or if we're playing like any sort of variant that's like star or pentagram, I think those are different formats, or they might be the same one, or things like that, where it's like these kind of like pseudo multiplayer team variants. So, but yeah, that's nice. But again, also it's just like, I think I'm biased towards this creature specifically because it's a good green creature and it does green stuff, and green is the best color, unlike you, red. No one likes you, red. Why am I just being mean towards red? Because red. And at number 1, you might say this is a little bit interesting for number 1. It's last one standing, which is 1 black and a red. Choose a creature at random, then destroy the rest. Granted, this is a 3-mana board wipe for everything except one thing. But this is one that's very much, it's kind of like that experience of the game, where there's like a big like threat somewhere, and then there's like the one creature that like everyone like is like, well, except its controller is hoping to like kill. Like there's like someone's like suited up Voltron creature or something like that, where it's like you want to like everyone's like hoping that's like, please do not get that one selected, and things like that, where it creates these like moments of sheer tension and like relief, and then despair is like, oh no, we just blew up everything except their huge kitted out Voltron creature. But that just leads to a very good experience of the game. Also, I mean, board wipes are nice, but also board wipes in black are nice specifically. But also it is also very cheap. Like a lot of the time, especially if there's like someone going wide of tokens or anything like that, but like all likelihood it'll probably hit some small dorky like mana dork oftentimes. And yeah, but otherwise it's a fairly effective card, but it really adds to that experience of the game, which I'm like kind of like what I'm going for when it comes to building a thing. And this kind of like effect and stuff is kind of encapsulates all of like what I go for when trying to build a cube. Also, like the randomness is nice, where I'm not a big fan of like tons of randomness within Magic beyond like the inherent randomness of like shuffling and drawing and things like that. Like dice rolling and things like that from like Unstable are fun in like small doses, but I don't want it to be a mainstay. But this is like just the right amount of randomness, where it's not like all the time or like turn by turn, I just hope I roll well. But this is kind of like this one. It's like this one time I need it to work. And that's what I like, where it's these big moments where it's like the randomness matters and things like that. Not incremental over time, if that makes sense. But yeah, well, that has been my top 10 for Battlebond. Slowly working backwards, although we'll probably get a fair few in before Ravnica Alliance. We'll have to jump forward again for Ravnica Alliance. I don't actually even know what the next one is. Next video after this one will be, in fact, we're going back to Dominaria, which is an interesting one because it was made, like, Dominaria was very good for Commander, but a lot of it was in the form of legendary creatures. So actually going about and finding the non-legendary creature cards that were like really good for Commander was interesting. It was also just a really good set. But yeah, well, that's about all I have to say this evening. I still have a few more videos that'll come out before Christmas time. So I'll probably do a proper like Christmas video. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful night with wonderful dreams, and as I say every night, may your stories smile upon you.